Welcome, everyone, to Trainers Warehouse Show and Share. I am Sue Landay, president of Trainers Warehouse, and we're talking today about onboarding. All of the challenges to get people not just to know about what their job is, but to get them to know one another, the culture of the organization, and everything else. And as with all of our open office meetings, my hope is that I'm able to facilitate a conversation among us. It's not just among me. I don't want to talk amongst myself. I do have a bunch of ideas, but I feel like the conversation and the contributions and everything is so much richer when, all of us are able to weigh in and share and talk about what's working and what's not. So with that, I did mention that I put a question in the chat asking folks if there's something in particular that you'd like to get out of today's conversation. Wendy mentioned the checklist that I articulated a little earlier before we were recording, focusing on either checklists, conversation starters, games, and creating an environment that's kind of conducive and bringing everyone in. Amy shared with me earlier, before a lot of folks were on the call, that her organization, and Amy, feel free to to either show your face if you're willing, or further articulate this, but that since COVID, a lot of them kind of went online. And so what onboarding looked like, last year isn't where they want to continue to be. So let's see. I've been blabbing. I'm going to give it a second, and feel free, folks, to just unmute yourselves, and so that we can make this a little bit of a more fluid conversation. And Amy, I also see you've written in the chat that sharing organizational culture across the work groups. So maybe we start there with the culture, because it's one thing, hold on, let me back up for a second. For me, I feel like I want to make sure we hit on like helping people get to know one another. So like focusing on the person to person, kind of building that energy, and then also kind of the culture of the organization. Does that sound about right to people? I'm seeing the few faces I can see are nodding. So let's go with that. So if you will, share with me some of the things that you may be doing to help your new employees, your new hires, understand the culture of your organizations. Anybody want to kick us off?
I can share something. So hi everybody. My name is Shanae LeBeau. Here in Richmond, Virginia. I work for an insurance company. And I think something that we've been trying to find the right balance in is a hybrid environment. We've been pretty much remote first. We've gotten back into doing a few orientations and things like that, having people's first day in person to try to connect. And also bringing our leaders in to try to really make that personal time for it. Even in a virtual space, I realized our C-suite, they have gotten quite disconnected from our new hires. It's something where, in an in-person environment, it was a lot easier. They would have either a monthly get together where they would meet new hires. So we're trying to go back to the basics and kind of go back and find those things to figure out how can we introduce them properly to the company outside of just their immediate team.
That one somehow is popping.
All right, I'm sorry, I am getting some feedback. It might be from Kim or someone else.
Circuit.
Thanks. Shani, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate your sharing that. Karen, can you talk about your approach in terms of sharing your organization chart and what that looks like and how you do it?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm also from Richmond, Virginia. Um, so yeah, so upon their first couple of days, I send out the meet and the we send out an email, introducing the new employee to everybody in the location. And then as part of my onboarding, I give them the org chart, and because we have multiple different areas, and then just have them try to meet them one on one to make it a little bit more personable, and then have them ask questions like, how can we partner? Like, what is a good way that we can, coordinate or collaborate? And then as they meet them, they check off the various people off the org chart, and then hopefully gain some new insight or new ideas, or just create some ties, so
Yeah.
that they can hopefully forge some sort of relationship.
So that raises a couple of ideas that I've seen that I don't know if folks have tried this or not. But one thing you talked about is that email introduction, and have seen people include not just what the job is, who the person is, but additional kind of fun facts about them. Um, so I kind of wonder if there are specific things when you're introducing the person, how do you do that? And then also with the org chart, I saw this activity where people kind of created it as a scavenger hunt. So find the person in the, it's not just like introduce yourself to the org chart, but maybe, come back with a fact about each of those different people or something like that. And wonder how, if there are ways you may have kind of gamified that or added, additional kind of nuance or fun.
So Susan, I was going to, this is Debbie. I work for High Automation in St. Pete, Florida, and I work as a documentation manager, which means I do just all the stuff no one else wants to do. So I'm in charge of onboarding employees over here, and I was going to share with you something, but I don't, Sharon's disabled, but normally what we do is we have a welcome um, PowerPoint that we've put together that myself and the CEO deliver to the new employees, just us and the new employees. And it includes who's who. It employs a lot about our culture. And it has an org chart, and it has pictures in it of people. And then after they've done that, I put together an agenda for kind of a training agenda for like, it's over like the course of 2 days, maybe 3,
And so
depending.
let me interrupt Debbie, because I did
Yeah.
just enable sharing, if you're still
Oh,
able to do that as
oh,
you're talking.
oh, yeah. So what I end up doing is something like, let's, yeah, that's the one I want. Sure. Right. So let me go back to, this is the agenda. Can you see my agenda?
Yep,
This
we're
is the
good.
agenda I put together, and I have an introduction to production control. So someone out there was talking about making sure they knew everybody. So that's the whole point, is they get to meet all of these people, and what they do, and they talk about what they do and how they fit in the organization and everything. But then the other thing is, we have this little welcome to High Automation. We had 2 people on this one day, and I put together here's introductions, there's pictures of people, and then I put together what's the plan? I put together a little notebook, and it has some note pages in it. It has their agendas. It has a table of contents, and it has some information in it, so they can walk around. So I tell them, whatever you have to, when you learn new things, put it in the notebook. I said, it's yours to keep. You could do anything you want with it if you find other stuff. And they seem to really like that, because then they have their very own thing, and it's all in one place. But we're very proud of our culture here, so we do try to emphasize that. But that's kind of where that goes. And then we go into our overview and everything. So
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I've also seen people like include a current picture and a baby picture, which is also kind of one of those fun ways that piqued my interest.
Well, we have a newsletter. We do an employee newsletter every month, and we always have a welcome new hire. So someone was talking about their likes and dislikes and their fun facts, and so we put that in our newsletter. So in addition to walking around to everybody, they can also see that in the newsletter.
Love that. Love that. And Karen said that they, in their email, also include, you know, hobbies and other kinds of information. So it's not just, you know, sharing a resume, but giving kind of a better sense of the person. Other thoughts about sharing the company culture and how you go about doing that. Another thing that I saw, which I'd love to hear if any of you have tried this and what you may have added to it, is this idea of kind of a welcome kit where each item in the kit represents something that's important, whether it's like a squeeze ball in the form of a question mark to encourage people to ask questions and to be inquisitive, or crayons to encourage creativity. But I think it also kind of comes down to, what are your goals? What is it about your, you know, about the culture that you really hope to share and to bring out? Has anyone tried something like that?
I know that for us, we certain departments have kind of customized their own welcome gifts. It's more, it ends up using it ends up being more tailored to their job. So for example, our claims department, we have like generic company swag, but also like for their job is claims. So they also have like they get little Hot Wheels cars, because also in training, they'll be showing, you know, using those things to kind of play with and also learn the job. So they'll find each area kind of has something unique that they can throw in as their special item, on top of just like, you know, the regular elephant swag with the notebook pen type of stuff.
Love that. Love that. We also, I will share the link. We have a blog post about some different onboarding ideas and tips and techniques, and have some other kind of representative items and what it might communicate. So we can share that, or Sarah may find that as well. Other things that you've done to share your company culture with people. I'm gonna pause and give
well,
you time.
One thing that we have, I'm not sure if this counts as company culture, but I guess, you know, I told you we introduced them to everybody, but up on the wall, one of the main walls in our break room area, I created, it's basically a PowerPoint, but we put these pictures up on the wall, and we have all of the people's names with pictures next to them. And the pictures are fun pictures. They're not like standing against the wall looking serious. You know, they're trying to show the personality of the people. And even people that have worked here for a while use it. Like, what does he look like again? Right. But it does help with our culture, saying we're all a team. These are all the people. I mean, we're small enough. I mean, we've got like 30 some odd people in the building. So it's small enough for us to do that. But people seem to really like having that up there. And if I'm not caught up on it, they tell me.
Yeah. Get my picture up there, or take my picture down. I
Right,
need
or-
a picture.
Yeah, or here's a new picture. Or here, didn't somebody new start 3 days ago? How come it's not updated? I'm like, they just started 3 days ago.
Yeah.
They like it.
Anything else culture related before we kind of move over to, you know, other ways to make people feel welcome on those first days?
One thing I wanted to mention that I thought was kind of a cool way to do it is for some of our upcoming events. Like if there's, for example, we might have like, oh, some people in the company are getting together to go for a hike, or those like little things, are fun and engagement things, making sure that they know ahead of time, hey, here's what's coming up at the herd, here's opportunities for you to kind of plug in. And then depending on what it is, almost giving them kind of like that exclusive, like, almost like you would have like a reserve section. Like we want to make sure you get fast tracked, or you definitely have a spot, or that let's go ahead and make time for you to register or sign up for any of the things that you want to now. So they don't have to go digging in their email, and that they also feel kind of like the warm, like you're welcome here, versus being the person that just shows up and is like, I'm kind of by myself. I don't know if I want to go to that event. It sounds cool, but I'm the new person and I don't know anybody. Kind of creating a pathway for them to either find a buddy that's going to that event as well, or they start connected with each other in the class, or if there's a class or more than one new hire, they can kind of buddy up. Oh, we're going to that together, and it makes it easier for them to plug in, because nobody likes going by themselves, especially if you're new.
Right. It kind of reminds me, and I'll, this is a little telling because I've had kids in college recently, but those freshman trips, right, where basically they create smaller pods of people, smaller groups, so that you're able to bond, with a smaller group and over an activity. So, whether that's a team building game or a scavenger hunt or, a hike, or, finding a new coffee shop in the area, so that it's sort of, centric to your location. I also love those ideas that bring smaller groups of people together, whether it's with, their fellow cohort of incoming new hires, or pairing them with, a mentor, someone who's been at the organization a long time. Great idea.
We also have a little sign in the front lobby, and so when I create a sign that says, welcome Jim Jones, to hire, new hire or something. And I've had a couple of people ask me afterwards, can I take that home? Can I have that sign, take it home? Because they wanted to show it to their family. They got a welcome sign, and it's just such a little thing and so easy to do, but it makes people think, it makes them realize that we know they're coming. We appreciate that they're coming. And it's not like, oh, you're here, here's your desk, here's your stuff, bye, so that's been really successful.
And it reminds me also of, and it's a great segue, Debbie, of just the idea of greetings, of when people are coming in. So, one way is the sign or the picture, letting everybody know that they're welcome. Are there other greetings that you've tried that you feel like have been really successful?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So and maybe we've teased them out already, but greeting them with a sign, greeting them with something on their desk, with swag, with, that initial, they come in the first time, how do you embrace them? Are there conversations that you might have, or like, those first few minutes when they come in, having a coffee, something like that, that kind of creates that environment that feels welcoming.
Yeah, well, we always show them to the coffee room. It kind of depends. I don't have anybody that works under me, so I'm like the HR person. I'm the de facto HR person. So I will bring them in and then hand them off to their person, their manager. But if the manager's not there, then I make sure that we all walk them around and we make sure they know where the coffee is. And that's always a big plus. And then, and where they sit. And then a lot of the people here are very welcoming anyway. So you just say, oh, Joe is starting today. Jackie's not here yet. Can you make sure they have what they need? And then they just kind of take the ball and run with it. So we try very hard not to just abandon them, particularly the first couple of days.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. That sounds great. Another thing that I read recently, shifting gears a little bit, focuses on setting either not really expectations, but thinking about, what do we hope, how can we help the new hire be successful on their own? What kind of coaching tips can we give them to encourage them to introduce themselves to people, to ask names again, to excuse me, I don't have all of those ideas, but or to help them, give them ways to remember names. Like, I think that it's also nice to say, okay, you're the new one here, but you're not alone in this. And we want to help you be successful for yourself. And so, the coaching tips that we might give them to, let them know it's okay to ask people's names 3 different times or whatever else it might be.
Oh, well, like I said, we have the little wall with all the pictures. So I always like to make sure that new hires have the references they need, because I've started places before where I didn't know where the server drives were. I didn't know how to find information. And so we have very specific places they can find. So they have it in the notebook, but then one of the classes that's given in that little agenda is about how to use email, how to use Teams, how to find where do we store our data. And so where are all the reference information located? So I know that when they go back to their desk and they have moments to themselves, they have reading material, or they have places they can poke around.
Yeah.
So they don't feel quite so helpless.
Excellent. All sounds great, Debbie. Thank you.
I do something similar to that as well. In addition, I think, I had to step away for a brief moment, but one thing I do, I came in the tail end and about, looking about coffee shops. So I kind of make a little map of like all the little area, like where you go have lunch and, just kind of just certain radius. But I try, at least for the first week, either myself or buddy them up with one of my other nurses to take them out to lunch. So that way they can kind of build and forge those relationships with the team. And then we'll all go out together like at the end of the week. So they, when we don't have other clinics or anything going on. So those
that kind of checks off a lot of boxes, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
But yeah, but when we don't have a lot of funds for onboarding, like I love the gift idea. So then I just end up doing it out of my own pocket. Like, okay, I know you have to sit in this webinar for 4 hours, right? Like here's some crackers and a water, right? Like something like that. But it's difficult when you work.
But it's all part of making them feel comfortable and at home and like people care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, Sharon put in the chat kind of a tip and a thought about building connections and how important that is. I've seen, people talking about using the 2 truths and a lie as a fun way to kind of prompt conversation. We have people using thumb balls to prompt conversation. I saw a really kind of fun idea where people grab a couple of M&Ms and each of the different colors kind of signifies something different that they might have to share. So maybe the red is, share something you like or share something that makes you angry, whatever those kinds, but adding again, hitting a number of different touch points by involving both food and conversation. Other ideas that you have, either questions that you like to ask or tips for helping people build connections with one another?
Sorry, I'm noticing here that Wendy has a question. Does anyone have experience with making folks in different locations or working from home feel more welcome? Besides the first day.
Couple questions out there.
April did reply, but curious if anybody else has any other ideas.
All right, and so April, oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
would say we don't have that here so much. I mean, we pretty much work, once or twice a week we can work from home, but for the most part, everyone's here. But I would think, if you did have someone who was working from home quite a bit and they were brand new, maybe, kind of on the side, assign them a buddy to make sure that they're, to kind of check in on them. Make sure that they're invited to meetings, make sure they're not just working at their desk upstairs in the bedroom all the time and no one's talking to them. Just pulling them into conversations, so they're not kind of abandoned.
Yeah,
Maybe.
which is also similar, Debbie, to April's suggestion of just having a virtual coffee, having people come together without the agenda of learning something in particular, but it's just, it's just being at it's the virtual water cooler, right? I also, not sure if you all have the chat open, but, creating a list of who to ask about certain questions and having those sorts of things available. Sharon, I love the idea of assessments like DISC or True Colors to help people kind of get to know each other at a deeper level, I'm guessing, yeah?
I'm just going to ask, what's Strengths Finder, April? She said Strengths Finder is also great. I've heard of that, I think, but I'm not sure where to find it.
Here she comes.
You can look for that on Amazon. It's just a really cool way to, and in the book it has an assessment at the back that you can distribute that book to your whole team. It divides the strengths into 5 different categories. So then you can also kind of assess, okay, who has what strengths on our team? Like who's vision casting, who's relational, who is totally not relational. So it's a really, I've done it with my group when I was a supervisor and just did it for my whole team. And we could really just have some pretty rich discussions about it.
Yeah, I think I've done it before, but it wasn't at this job. It was a previous job. So it was a while ago, but it was really fun. And I think it started a lot of really good conversations. So I'll have to look into that. Thanks.
So we have in past conversations, we've talked about a lot of kind of card decks that can be used either in person or online. And actually just earlier this week, I should say, I saw a demonstration of the climber cards. We'll be showing them on a show and share in the next month or two. But it was a really nice way to be able to ask a question and have people pull a card that they think reflects, it could be anything, a strength, an interest, a worry, a fear, a hope, an experience. But to use those to kind of help people have, bring creativity and some richness into their conversation as well. So those can be a nice tool, again, whether you're in person or remote. All right. Well, we're coming up on a half an hour. We've had a ton of great ideas here. Any other questions or favorite tips and tricks that you've used recently that you'd like to share, that you'd hope to either share or ask?
This is Tim Lorenzen. I just wanted to say to Debbie that I'm a Clifton Strengths coach. So if you wanted to have a sidebar on how you might use that, I'd be willing to do that with you.
All right, Tim, do you want to also put into your chat your information about?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I just was like, how do I get a hold of you? So.
All right. Other questions, suggestions, anything else you were kind of hoping to hear about today that we haven't discussed yet?
There was one thing that we started doing as an entire agency, is we do a virtual coffee connection. And so every month, you have to sign up for it. And then once a month, the coordinator randomly chooses who you're going to be with. And then you have to reach out to that person and set up that virtual 15-30 minute get to know you. So, I'm at a local health department. I may be talking to somebody up, clear across my state and they do epi, right? Or they do something completely different. And then we just throw ideas and we just like, hey, that's a new connection that you make. And sometimes it's a nurse, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's, I just had the CIO yesterday as my coffee connection. So, it really, is really trying to open up and makes that hierarchical kind of structure less intimidating, because then you realize too that they're just real people too, right? Like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk to him about? Right. Like, but
Yeah.
it was just like, we're real people too. Everybody's real. And it just really did help. So
That's cool.
Love that. Love that. Other favorite experiences that you've either used, favorite best practices, or that you'd like to try but have questions about?
Oh, God.
All right, I'm seeing lots of ideas in the chat also. Wendy, we do Clifton at 8. Clifton. Oh, is that what Tim is an expert in, Clifton? Sorry, I'm not familiar with Clifton.
Yeah, it's Clifton Strengths.
Clifton Strengths. All right,
Clifton Strengths, that's right.
got it. Thank you for that clarification. All right.
I'm reading through the notes to see, the chat to see if there's anything, but
Excellent. Well, we'll also, I share the, some of the ideas that are in the blog posts. There's a balloon burst and scavenger hunt games and Jeopardy games and a few other ideas that didn't come up in the context of our conversation here, but there are some really terrific resources that we have assembled for, as just suggestions or ideas for what folks, how to kind of make that whole experience playful, whether it includes setting out those great welcome greetings or t-shirts or fidget toys or anything else. So we'll put together some notes, and I'm going to try to kind of coalesce all the ideas that have come through our conversation here, and we'll share those on our show and share page, and we'll email you all.
I have a quick question. They were talking about reboarding. Could what do you guys that are talking about that explain what you mean when that's needed?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
We kind of forget that people have been around for a while. We expect them to know things and to be ingrained in the culture and et cetera. But when the team changes, the dynamics change, and it's not just bringing on the new people, but it's integrating them in with the existing people. And so we can't just give information to the new people and ignore the existing or the experienced people. So we need to make sure that we're working together, and they're also hearing the same things as the new people are hearing, simply because things change. And just because you've been around several years doesn't mean you're doing it the right way.
Well, and that also brings up the challenge of mergers when two companies come together, and how important that is. I think that's also a step that's often missed, and it's critical, right? Bringing two separate cultures together. But Sharon, I love that idea. Just sort of that. Thank you for fleshing out that concept of reboarding and bringing people together who may have joined at different times.
Yeah, it sounds like that would give you an opportunity to retrain. In our group, processes change and they morph, and some people on teams are better at following them than others, and then some people are just very ingrained. But when you get a new person, it gives you an opportunity to call everyone together and say, hey, got a new person, I thought we should review how this works. without saying, you're not doing this right. I'm trying to, but it gives you an opportunity to open that conversation without anyone getting stepped on or some.
Absolutely. And explore if there are new processes that as the organization evolves, you want to pull together as a whole group and have everyone kind of part of that conversation of how do we want to evolve together? Where are we now? Excellent. Other questions or thoughts before we wrap things up here?
I just want to point out that Kim had asked the question if we would be able to access the recording of this, and I did put it in the chat, but we do have a page that has all the previous show and shares. So this one will get added to that page in about a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it's always, we have a link on the bottom of the show and share emails that says view prior recordings. So they're all there. Well, thank you, everyone. I always love these conversations and so appreciate people sharing their experiences, their questions, their challenges. I know it takes a lot with a group of people who you don't know. And maybe I should facilitate this differently, but I'm always a little fearful of spending too much time just having, going through a round of introductions because I want to kind of get to the topic. But if you'd like to have a conversation like that or confer with folks in some other way or in some other topic, please let me know. This is an evolving approach with these open office hours and the show and share. So please, we appreciate any and all feedback. So thank you all. I'm going to end the recording in a moment, but I will stay on. So if you have any other questions, feel free to hold on. So thank you all.